Nice little break since the last time we all met. It was met with a couple days off, which I think is always nice in mid-year to be able to kind of refresh, maybe mentally as well as physically. Obviously, nice to do that after a win. And it was really a tale of two halves. I thought we were very flat to open the game, and then I thought we played exceptionally well in the second half, and then had to withstand a few things in the last minute, which made it more interesting than it should have been. But give credit to Indiana. Indiana did some things that caused us some problems early, and then once we got that under control a little bit, we did some things. I like the infusion of Tijon in there with Trent, and then I thought Kipper, we played him a little more at the small forward spot to help space the floor and create some opportunities for LaRon and Trent in the middle third of the floor, and plus I thought defensively we were pretty solid the second half.
Coach, you've said before I don't like tiny guards. So with those two on the court at the same time, just was it give you? And what are the challenges of playing those two together more often?
Well, right now they're two of our better defenders. And they give us a chance to get up and under people. I think 9.5, 10 assists a game, or 10 turnovers a game was Indiana's number, and we forced them into 18. And earlier in the week, Michigan State 25. I think that gives us a little bit of quickness, a little bit of athleticism, and then in Tijon in particular, he's a guy that's pretty high IQ. He understands what we're doing conceptually, and he's been very good there in terms of not making mistakes from the help side.
Coach, considering the foul problems that you have at the power forward, how many minutes do you think it's reasonable that you could play Kipper and Black together?
It's a good question. It's part of the reason we haven't gone to that a little bit earlier. Or looked at it as much as depth up front. And early we weren't sure Greg was ready. We weren't sure Matisse would be ready. So we knew we were thin, and we had to fight that battle a little bit. It's been it's been a concern literally all year long. I think we're going to have to figure that out as we go here, because I think you can. That'll be something we'll try to do a little more of. Is play Kipper out there on the perimeter. He's very capable, and Greg's emergence has helped, and I'm not afraid to put Matisse in there, and I'm not afraid to slide AJ in and play small if we have to.
One other question: since the last game, how many miles have you traveled?
I don't know that. A lot in a short period of time. I know Champaign to LA and back in one day isn't something that I would highly recommend for those of you vacationing and wanting. But it was nice to see 70 degrees and a little sunshine. But the 45 minutes of sleep that I got on the plane didn't bode well for Saturday afternoon's practice. Let's put it that way.
Brad, one more to piggyback on the lineup. Aside from the risks of fouls, how did you like that trio of Kipper and LaRon and Michael on the floor together in that second half?
Well, I like it a lot. The one thing that Kipper has proven that he can do is make shots. And I think he made 7 threes, and is that right, in the Michigan State game? 7 threes? 5? He made 5 threes. So you've got to account for that. And that gives us space, and even with Tijon at the point and Trent at the 2, Trent's one of our best shooters. It creates space, and the game offensively is about spacing and forcing teams to have to help on Trent on ball screens or help on LaRon on the post, and And so I like that. And Michael's a threat. I think every coach we've tried to that we've played thus far has tried to account for him, and whether he's making shots or not, he's a guy that's very capable of running off 7, 8, 9 in a row, and he's done that in practice. So, yeah, I like that lineup. I like it.
Right here, Coach. Looking at Tijon, or going back to Tijon, what do you think he brings to this team defensively as far as ball pressure, and then also helping space the floor as far as ball movement?
Well, the one thing I like about Tijon is he doesn't make mistakes. He gets to his places, whether it's just ball pressure on the ball, but off the ball, he's in the right place most every time. He doesn't make mistakes. He gets it. He's he takes what we do in practice and he transitions it to the game, and he's very good at it. And he comes up and he gets his hands on balls, and he does a lot of little things that don't show up in a stat sheet, but they're very, very important to winning. And I like that. Offensively, I loved what he brought to us because he gave us another driver, as did Kipper, a guy who could drive the ball. We got to the foul line a ton in the second half of that ball game, and again, it was just another primary ball handler to relieve Trent a little bit, and we got the ball in the paint. And as anybody knows, when you get the ball in the paint, good things happen.
Coach, with about like a month left in the regular season, just how do you think DeMonte, I guess, has progressed just through his first season with the team?
I think he's been great. I think that there's been ups and downs with DeMonte. I think there's been some inconsistency maybe offensively that maybe every freshman goes through, but I say this all the time. He does a lot of the right things. He does a lot of the intangible things that don't necessarily show up on a stat sheet. And he's a kid that every time I turn around, he's in the gym working. He wants to become as good a player as he can possibly be, and I still go back to this, and I keep saying it. He didn't play last year, and for a 17, 18-year-old kid to come off a year off and not play is pretty remarkable. What he's been doing at the Big Ten level.
Coach, back here in the back, to piggyback off that a little bit, where DeMonte's had the ups and downs, Mark struggled a little bit, Trent's really taken off. What's been the difference with Trent, and what were your expectations of Trent coming in?
Well, I think Trent struggled a lot early. I think every one of our freshmen have had those moments. Mark got off to a good start, and now has hit a hiccup or two and a speed bump. I think everybody goes through that, and it's what the big adjustment is about, and that's called coaching on the other team. Really good players on the other team. Everybody has to adjust to that. I think now Trent has found a groove where he's no longer really playing like a freshman until what he did in the last minute the other night. That kind of snuck its ugly head, but Trent's confident, and he's got that ability. I knew Trent would have big games for us. I knew he was a very capable guy. He was a guy that could have great runs. I don't know, DB, what he scored, 11, 13 in a row the other. He's capable of doing that, and where he can just single-handedly take things over. And for a freshman to do that, that's pretty impressive. So, but he had his struggles early, and the transition to playing mostly on the ball was a big transition for him, and he's still growing and he's still learning in those spots. But he, Mark, DeMonte, Greg, they've all had their roller coaster ride this year so far.
Looking at Rutgers, Freeman and Sanders scored 38s last year against Illinois. What do you guys have to do to shut that down this year? They're
both really good players. Freeman scares me to death. He's a guy that can shoot it. He's a high motor guy. He drives it at will. He's a guy that competes on the offensive glass at an extremely high level. This is a terrific offensive rebounding team, and they're led by him. Sanders is a guy that can go get one. He's got a great crossover. He's a very good, very unique player in this way that he's a terrific mid-range player. He's got a great pull-up. He gets you off balance, and we got to do a good job on him. He's a guy that's as he did in the Michigan State game, can single-handedly just carry him.
Rutgers struggles to score the ball, but what have you seen from them defensively this year?
They're really, really good defensively. They got great length. They've got a lot of like pieces. When you look at their roster, they've got guys who can all guard multiple positions. I don't know if they're on paper, if they're the biggest team in the league. They may be the longest. But they can all move their feet. They can all challenge shots. They make you shoot contested shots. And then Steve's done a great job because they do a great job on the glass. They do a really good job of trying to limit you to one shot, and they make it very challenging to score. It's amazing how many possessions they're in defensively where the shot clock's under 5, and that's a sign of a good defensive team.
Playing Trent and Tijon together and maybe getting Trent off the ball, how does that maybe allow you to use him in different ways offensively? Well,
I think a lot of advantages to it. One, he can catch a breath where he's not having to handle it as much and shoulder that load. But secondly, it puts him in different positions to receive ball screens. And then he's a very good shooter from the perimeter. And again, when I talk offense, I talk mostly about spacing. And you have to know where Trent Frazier is. I mean, he's capable of rattling off 10, 12 in a row. And so that makes the court wider, and it gives LaRon and Michael and our interior guys more room. It makes it harder to tag off of ball screens. So there's a lot of positives for Trent not being on the ball some, and yet I'm an awfully big fan of him on the ball.
Brad, obviously they're not going to create like Trent or some of your other guys, but Finke and Jordan both shooting under 40% during conference play. What's the key to getting them good looks, better looks? It seems like they're getting some and not going in, but what's the key to getting them going offensively?
It's like I keep telling shooters, keep shooting. Keep shooting. I like the shots Mike gets. I like when Mike's aggressive. I think that there's adjustments that have to be made for Mike every game. I think teams scheme him. Whether they're going to switch, how they're going to tag on ball screens, where they're going to put him. We as coaches try to figure those things out and put him in. I like Mike shooting the basketball. I like Mike in open space. I like Mike in post-ups. There's a lot of areas I feel very comfortable with Mike, so we have to figure out where those are every single game, and it's usually different. I think the one thing that Aaron got open looks early. I think everybody's pretty aware when Aaron checks in a ball game that he's in the ball game. I think he spaces. I think he's one thing I'd like to see Aaron do is get back on the offensive glass. He's getting 2 or 3 offensive rebounds early a game, and that tends to get you going. But I still got a lot of confidence when he and Mike both shoot it that it's going to go in.
It's one more thing with Tijon. A couple weeks ago, he was found himself sidelined for his own actions there, I guess. Do you feel like that had an impact on him, maybe being on the bench when he clearly, showed against Indiana where he could be a good piece for this team?
I hope so. I mean, we're talking 18 to 22-year-olds that aren't perfect, and it's a disadvantage for his teammates not to have him on the court. And I think that there's no question he understands that probably now more than ever, and that he is a guy that can impact our team and impact impact the guy that sits to his right and sits to his left, and so learning is part of it, and those are things that I think he's learned a great deal from.
Coach, Brad, Darren's in town. Darren Williams is in town. Are you doing anything with him, with the team?
Mm-hmm.
Any of that you could share?
Mm-hmm. A lot. Be foolish not to. I respect. I have tremendous respect for Darren. He's. I don't know, maybe if not the greatest, one of the greatest to ever play here. And I'd be very foolish not to try to tap into his expertise and his experience and have conversations with him. One, I enjoy talking to very successful people, and you're talking about a guy who's third pick in the draft and a gold medalist and a all-star, and he achieved things that very few people that are in this profession get to do, and so I think it's a real honor for our players to have the opportunity. But I'll also, I respect Darren's privacy and his time, and he will spend some time with our players, and I'm very, very appreciative of that.
It was hard to tell if anybody tweaked anything in the Indiana game. How's the health of everybody, generally speaking? Is everybody available?
Yeah, everybody was good Saturday in practice, from what I remember. I was a little tired, and then we had a pretty good practice yesterday. Everybody's pretty healthy, so yeah, everything's, knock on wood, everything's a go.
And generally speaking, has this been a pretty good year for health? I know you had the flu bug, but everything else seemed to be pretty minor. It hasn't really kept people off the floor too much. Sorry, knock on wood.
Yeah. I've been very blessed that way. I've had 2 of my 3 years at SFA had the same starting 5, so the entire season.
Have you seen a change at all in the locker room since the players' meeting that was called by Mark Alstork and Michael Finke after the Wisconsin game?
Did they call it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Good, you're ahead of me. You know more than I do. I think a lot of that is probably more amongst them. I've seen a team that just continues to fight. I mean, and I keep telling this team we're not that far away. 3 overtime losses, a buzzer beater, a game we very easily could have won at Minnesota, and all of a sudden you start looking at the rankings and you're in 4th, and yet we didn't win those. And so it's continued growth, but this team has continued to persevere and keep fighting, and that's the only way I'm going to have it. And that's, who says that we can't go win the next one and the next one? And I don't know. I mean, the same Indiana team we just played took Purdue, who's I think really, really, really good, to the wire yesterday. So I think you got to. That's why you throw them up, and I think this group is passionate and excited every day for practice.
Here in the back again, kind of the same question, but has the mood changed since the win? Kind of get the monkey off your back or the piano, like you said.
As for me, no question. There's no question. We all want to win. We all want to win. We all strive to do that every single day, and there's no better feeling than winning. There's no worse feeling than losing, and yet I'm really proud of these guys because it wasn't easy, and it wasn't going to be easy. That was almost fitting to win that way. But we've been pretty inspired. So let's play on that.
Brad, I know you can't get into too many specifics here, but you got a couple spots left in 2018. You mentioned recruiting, while other teams are maybe done in recruiting 2019. What's the challenge as a staff? One, trying to find players at this late stage and fill a class, but also get ahead in 2019.
Well, I don't think I challenge you to find one program that's done. The landscape today is such that with transfers and 5th-year transfers, nobody's ever done one and dones. I mean, you can go look at any program in the country. I don't know if they can tell you who's leaving, who's going to be in their program. The years and the time of equal class balance and the perfect scenario, those are long gone. But there's a lot of players out there. There's a lot of players we've identified and continue to identify, and recruiting is an everyday challenge. It's what we talk about every single day, and it's fitting guys into our program, our culture, and what we're looking for, and We live it every day. There's not a day that goes by that we don't meet about it, and there's not a day that goes by that I'm not calling somebody about it. Recruiting. Every day. And the 19 class we're spending a lot of time on those group of people that we're recruiting in that class as well, and the 20s.
Coach, right here, just looking at the three-point attempts you've had in the Big Ten, not shooting that well, but during the last game you were able to get to the free throw line. So, what's the emphasis been like? Just getting to the line, getting other players in foul trouble.
My emphasis is always the same: threes, free throws, layups. Threes, free throws, and layups. And we continue to want to be aggressive in all those areas. We want to make free throws. We want to make threes. And when you're in those areas, basketball is about shooters. The best teams in the NBA, it's about shooters and passers, to be quite honest. The best teams in the NBA all have multiple guys who can shoot the basketball. The best teams in the NBA are all your top assist teams. And that transcends. We're not that far apart in the structure of the game, the way we play, the shot clocks, and so the game transcends down from the NBA level. And those are things that we continue to strive for every day. That's why I talk about spacing and yeah, we got to make shots, and we got to get to the free throw line more, and we continually work on that and emphasize that every single day.
I don't know if you're superstitious, but after getting your first Big Ten win, do you plan on bringing back the orange blazer to Lou Henson Court tomorrow night?
I would give you my wife's cell, but I probably better not do that.
So does she dress you before every game then?
Every single one. So now she asks if there's something that I don't want to wear. So we'll see. Well, the great question. Did you like it?
Yeah, it's a great look.
All right. It wasn't peach. It wasn't peach. It wasn't the brightest orange, but it was not peach.